Hello, I'm T, and today I'm making a map of my warrior cats clan, LeafClan. I'll link the video where I designed the cats in LeafClan, but this map doesn't really need any of that context. I've designed a map before for my other warriors clan already, so you'll see me reference it a lot in this video because I tried to get the styles to match up. I actually just ended up copy-pasting a section of the old burn area in the beginning during my sketch. I had a few comments last video asking how I got ideas for my map and the different areas I would be drawing, which I unfortunately didn't either go into or record there. I did here though. A lot of what I do is just improvising. I don't really have a solid plan laid out. Some things I like to think about though are what areas the main characters would consider important. So for warrior cats, that's like hunting areas, danger, water, herbs for medicine cats, territory that's being fought over, and training areas. Next I block out the basic areas that these places will go in before I start sketching in any detail. This is so I make sure that the map is balanced and there isn't a lot of important areas in detail on one side and not much at all on the other. I try to make the shapes as funky and organic looking as possible, because the way natural land usually grows is more random than basic shapes like circles and squares. I also get a lot of ideas from hikes or walks I go on. I wrote down what kinds of plants would be growing in each area, so when I started to sketch I had a general idea of what to draw. At first I wasn't sure if I wanted to give LeafClan a map at all, but I decided that I had fun on the last map that I drew and hey, why not? It took me much less time because I wasn't figuring out the style itself, I was just matching my previous map. LeafClan's general territory is less dense and forested than their neighboring clan. They have more open spaces in general, as well as more areas affected by floodwaters. Their territory is generally more flat and less forested, which causes water to flood over the banks of rivers a lot. They're an ever-growing clan, currently thriving and doing well in their territory. The prey is plentiful and there are more kits being born in the clan constantly. Both Jungle Clan and LeafClan shrunk significantly because of battles that wiped out a lot of their warriors. But LeafClan, winning the old burn area and thus one of the most plentiful prey hunting areas around, is thriving, while Jungle Clan struggles to survive. I'll describe each area in a little more detail as I draw it as best as I can. I'll try to speed up the footage and slow it down as needed so I'm not talking about something that's not even on screen, but no promises. When describing settings, I really like to add more detail than just their purpose. I think it's fun to think about how they feel, smell, look, and sound, and especially how the cats feel about them. I think it helps bring them to life more. Okay, let's get into the main areas of the territory. The Old Burn is a strip of territory that divides the Jungle Clan and LeafClan borders. It's a very green area, with lots of new plant life growing there. The undergrowth is thriving, and trees are starting to come back in this area. Old charred logs and stones can still be found in this area, and some of the dirt is blackened from long ago ash. The river that runs through the Old Burn used to be choked with ash as well, but has long since washed downstream and become crystal clear again. It's a highly contested prey and herb-rich territory. It currently belongs to LeafClan, and they constantly send hunting patrols there, who return with plentiful prey. The Old Burn makes up a huge part of their territory and is their main hunting ground. The border that used to divide the clans was the river, but LeafClan's current leader, Rainstar, has taken more territory than that. They essentially own all the territory that's on this map. The area is very sunny compared to many other areas, without all the tall trees and canopy to shade the ground below. It makes it easier for small plants to thrive. LeafClan's camp is an old lake bed that's been dried up for ages. Water used to flow from the Floodplain's river down into their camp and make its way to the Stonefall Ravine. Some of the older cats in the clan worry about their camp flooding, but it hasn't happened yet, so it's easy to brush off the worry. The lake bed provides plenty of shelter and space for dens, and it's a snug and safe place for the clan to live, other than the threat of floods. The medicine den lies below a slanted rock that makes a path up to the leader's den. The apprentices sleep between two trees grown together and entangled. Warriors and elders sleep on opposite sides of the camp, and the nursery is located just behind the hill that obscures their den in this map. Since the camp is in an abandoned lake bed, the ground there is soft and silty. They store prey near the smooth rocks in the center of camp, and cats can often be found lying there and sunning themselves or sharing tongues as well. LeafClan's camp is a peaceful place, but it is by no means quiet. It's often bustling with activity from kits, warriors, and apprentices, especially with how mischievous the current clan apprentices can be. LeafClan also enjoys that they can see the stars at night if the sky is clear, the middle of the camp being free from trees that block out their shine. The Fern Patch is where new apprentices and even warriors go to train. They learn their very first hunting and battle techniques in this area. The tree life here is sparse, so there is much more room for cats to move around, and the soft, lush grass cushions cats during battle training. It is known as the Fern Patch because ferns are scattered throughout the entire training grounds, and cats often come here to gather fresh ferns, as well as moss to cushion their nest. I had some trouble with this area because I wasn't sure how defined I wanted to make the ferns and grass. They're much smaller than the trees are, of course, so I wasn't sure how much detail to give. The top edge of the fern patch is defined by a sharp hill with exposed mossy stones sloping down and bushes growing on top. It extends down almost to the river. There is no clear edge, but the forest undergrowth does get thicker as one goes toward the river. The fern patch is a soft, lush piece of territory. It's often quieter than the rest of the territory because prey has learned to hide, noisy apprentices doing battle training often scaring any potential prey off or into their burrows. When the camp becomes too crowded for how many warriors there are for the space, cats often venture to the fern patch to lounge around or share tongues. Plus, it gives the apprentices plenty of space to get into all sorts of mischief without waking up any cats trying to sleep peacefully in their dens. Stonefall Ravine is at the bottom edge of LeafClan's territory, and is considered a very dangerous place. This, funnily enough, has nothing to do with the steep cliffs or rock slide, but rather has to do with the amount of predators and rogues that have made their home in the caves there. It is often avoided as much as possible, only the occasional large patrol sent that way to make sure that no danger is creeping into LeafClan's territory. This is especially important because of the old riverbed making a path from LeafClan's camp to the ravine. A river used to flow here, which caused the rock slide that you can see here during a particularly harsh rainy season. Plants, vines, and even trees grow out of the very cliffside itself. It's amazing how the trees manage to push their roots into the barely there crevices in the cliffside and cling on. The ravine is a large and airy place, the air positively filled with noise and life. Depending on where a cat is in relation to it, they can often hear the distant crash of the waterfall onto the jagged stones below. Aside from this, birds make their homes in the cliffside and trees around it, and sing loudly from dawn until dusk. It has an atmosphere that could be mistaken for peace, the vast open space of the cliffside being equal parts frightening and awe-inspiring. Still, it puts many warriors on edge to walk here, because they know just how dangerous the forest life around this area is, and with all the noise in the air, it would be hard to hear a predator sneaking up. The Floodplain is a wide river that flows near the edge of LeafClan's territory. It's a wonderful area for finding herbs and sunning on rocks near the edge of the water. During the rainy season, it often floods violently in rainstorms, making it a dangerous place to be if the weather looks bad. The normally rapid waters become a churning, turbulent, and deadly area. Few trees grow in the flood area, because they are often knocked down and flushed downriver during storms. The area recovers when rains are less frequent, but there is only so much plant life that can grow before the area floods again. Many rocks here are smooth and worn, and any vegetation that grows is small and often only survives for a season or so. This area is sunny in good weather, smelling of sand and sun-warmed plant growth. Birds perch on the trees near the water, and animals come here to drink. Watching out for snakes is important, because they too like to warm themselves on the rock. It's an excellent place to fish when the waters calm down, cats often perching on the rock that lies in the middle of the river and waiting for an unsuspecting fish to swim by. This is also an ideal path to get to the other side, where the flood damages fewer plants because the bank is steeper. LeafClan's medicine cat gets many of her herbs from this area. The undergrowth makes up a large portion of LeafClan's territory. This is what the cats call the main forested area of the clan. They refer to the taller trees in the canopy as the overgrowth, but they certainly don't climb as much as their neighboring clans, so this is less relevant to them. LeafClan rarely hunts birds unless they fly down to the ground, so their main prey consists of creatures that scurry among the forest's undergrowth, hence the name. The trees are not quite close enough together to blot out sunlight and cast the forest floor in shadow. Instead, splotchy patterns of sunlight often fall across the leafy plants and bushes below. The undergrowth is an easier section of territory to get lost in than most, for new apprentices. Cats either navigate by scent or simply avoid this area of the forest and walk instead in the old washed-out riverbeds that no longer hold any water. I copy-pasted a lot of these trees since this makes up such a big portion, and is relatively the same all around. I do think it helps the map look more consistent, and it certainly saves me a lot of work. After designing all these areas and lining them, I can safely say that lining takes the longest of any step in this process. Still, coloring did take me quite a bit because I didn't really use a brush you can use the fill bucket with, or close-up lines, so I colored the entire map by hand again. At least the colors are only subtle differences, so you can't see all the mistakes I'm positive I made. I just snatched the colors from JungleClan's map, again just so that they would match and look like they're from the same world, because they are. LeafClan's map has one less area than JungleClan did, but the Old Burn takes up so much of their territory I didn't want to add more areas. It's definitely fun to come up with settings for the Cat Clan, and to imagine how the cats see all these different places and their thoughts on them. Still, I didn't want to overdo it. I realized that these territories are huge considering that they're controlled by clans of feral cats. In particular, I know that LeafClan probably has a very hard time getting to Starfalls to communicate with their warrior ancestors because it's so far away. I imagine that's why they think it's so important to be able to see the stars from their camp, so they can keep that connection. Anyway, that's just my 2 cents on the map. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in a future episode of me probably drawing something, which is not an official title, by the way. Thank you, goodbye.